Oh, there she is.
Hey. Well, I know, yeah, that was more out of hope than conviction. So I said that
Hi, Jan.
Hello.
Morning, Sarah.
Hey, Ellie.
Hello, thank you.
Yes, we can hear you, Jan.
I can't.
No.
it was fun as well. We could hear that.
We can't hear them, which is
Okay,
the
try.
question.
Okay, try now.
Hello,
Okay, I
could
can-
you try to speak again because we couldn't hear you before.
Hello, hello.
Oh,
And good morning from me.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh. 9:30 in the morning. Right. Okay, are we ready then, everybody?
I think so.
Well, it's so fantastic to see you again. I mean, we've all met. We met at the Hebden Bridge Film Festival. And I think Sadie from our film met you even earlier than that, didn't she?
Mm-hmm.
We've got Sarah here who directs our film, but it's fantastic to see you, and it's absolutely brilliant to see the film again. Oh, I can hear myself now. Very well received by our audience, everybody. You're pleased to hear. And it's really great to see you. And I'm going to kick us off with you, Ali, because can you just tell everybody how many films you've made?
Okay. Well, 1 plus 2 shorts.
So this is Ali's first film, everybody.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the reaction I expected when they would find that out. I already knew that, but the film that launched the festival yesterday was a film about people never feeling they're maybe too old to start something new or try something new. And I remember you and I were having a conversation, and you were explaining to me about how you came around to making your first film, and it's just such a lovely story. So just talk to us about how you came about making a film.
Sure. First, I want to say thank you to the Ramsgate International Film Festival for having us. We wish we could be there. We so love this audience part of it, obviously. But thank you very much. And thank you to anybody who's come out at 4:30 on a Wednesday afternoon. Is it Wednesday? Is it Tuesday?
Very hot day as well. It's a very hot day. So getting people in the cinema on a hot day is really amazing.
Fantastic. Okay, so it was, I mean, it's now 5 years ago, and Sarah and I were friends. We still are friends. And her and I and our partners, Tamara and Lara, who are also in the film, were out having coffee and we were catching up. And I was saying I had just finished this 16-week documentary film production program that I had, gone back to school at 53 just to do that. I was telling them all about it. And Sarah was telling us, we're catching up. Sarah was telling us she had been to see a breast cancer surgeon the day before, and was updating us on that session. And she said, it's just one more thing where I'm not quite that. And I said, well, what do you mean not quite that? She said, well, I'm Jewish. I'm not very Jewish. And I'm a woman, but people think I'm a man. And, I'm lesbian, but I get mistaken for trans. And I'm a mom, but I didn't carry the boys. And now here I am, seeing a breast cancer specialist. I don't have breast cancer yet. And I was like, ooh, my head just exploded with the complexity that was in just that one sentence. And so I said, oh my God, like, let's make that film. Like, that could be my first documentary. This is an incredible story. And then maybe I could pass it over to Sarah to let you know what her initial thoughts on that suggestion were. But that's how it all began.
You've done your 16-week course, how to make a film. And so over to Sarah. So tell us your side of how this film came about then, Sarah.
A little bit kicking and screaming from my side. I said to Ali at that time, like hard no. And then I said, you know what? You can practice on me because you're a new filmmaker. The likelihood of this ever actually happening is probably pretty slim. So I said, why don't you just practice on me? So she started, taking footage like at the very beginning. And yeah, it was, then she applied for a couple of grants and got no's, and I was like, okay, I'm good. And so, it never was something that I ever imagined uh, anything. It's not like I spent my whole life hoping that I would be the subject of a documentary. It was hard for me to think my story was worth telling and all the things and doubts and all of that, and not wanting to be kind of that center. But at some point I realized that, or I thought it's not about me. It's actually about representation and representing the people who are never represented in media and on the screen. And that's how it really helped me sort of hang in there during the process, which was very challenging.
Right. And so tell me how long that took, that film, because I know at one point you're talking about 2 years on from surgery, and we certainly started quite a bit before when you have surgery. So how long was the actual process, and actually how much development time, Ali, did you spend on it?
So I think, we started in early 2019. So that the scene around the dinner table, with the women talking about their breasts and relationship to it and all that. That was in March 2019. So that was right out of school. That was right at the very beginning. And then we actually got funding in like the summer of 2021. So, I kept going while we applied for funding and so on. And, any opportunities that arose that seemed like the right time to film and so on, I had bought basic equipment so that I could do that. So probably a couple of years. Now, of course, the world locked down, in amongst that as well. And, that, interestingly, of course, you've got a mix of narrative and documentary at the film festival this week. And it's interesting with documentary because, of course, you don't know how the story is going to unfold. I had kind of a bit of a sense of some of the parameters that I thought would be around the film. And then, obviously could not anticipate a global pandemic, which had an effect on everything. So anyway, but it was probably a couple of years. Then we got TELUS Originals, which it's not a broadcaster here. It's actually a telecommunications company, but they were really interested in the story, and we had a great executive producer there, and so they came on board, and that meant that I could have my first experience working with a crew, but we kept it, very small, very intimate, because, that's what it had been for the first couple of years.
And I think, certainly from my experience, when you listen to people like the executives and the commissioners, the first thing they ever say, well, the most important thing is access. And of course, you had an awful lot of access, and it looks like pretty much free reign. So, and how did you feel about that, Sarah? The level of access that you were giving your friend for some extraordinarily intimate scenes? And some lovely fun scenes with your boys as well. I mean, those were lovely, those scenes with the boys. And the fact that you have access and you know them, Ali, probably aided that. So talk to me about the access and how much time was Ali in your house, Sarah?
I probably don't have the best memory for these things, but I suppose in some way for me, the more the better, because there's more to potentially say, well, take it, but then we can decide, which we did a lot of, like, let's do it, and then we can decide later whether it's in or out. So I think that worked for me. I I don't know how anybody can make a documentary about a subject like my story and not have it be intimate and that there would be a lot of trust, which there is and was between Ali and I. The agreement was always, I mean, I had a lot of input. I had a lot of input into if there were things I felt super strongly about. Ali was very respectful and um, we talked a lot about the film and so I can't sort of imagine it another way. Um, really. So I don't know how much. I mean, I don't know. What do you say, Ali? Like you weren't in, there was one weekend where you literally stayed over, but other than that, you were kind of in and out and yeah, would you say?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that because we were friends and because I was part of that group, then there were events that were happening that were just fun events, people getting together, and I would ask if I could film while we were doing that. So there were certainly those things. It took a while to get around to for no other reason other than it took a while to get access to all of the home videos and stuff. I had no idea what was there. I mean, it was such an incredibly rich resource. And if I had seen it earlier on, I might have been in Sarah's face for the camera a bit more than I was because it was interesting to see all that stuff and to see how much their family had used cameras and captured so much when they were younger and so on, But it was fantastic to be able to have that.
There's a wonderful shot when she's with the horse and she's talking about, I would wear that today. And then I think 5 minutes later in the film, she's got almost exactly the same shirt on. But that was fantastic. I'm just going to ask you one of the questions that's coming from the audience now. I don't know if you can see these questions. Can they see them? You've got.
I can't.
Do you, Sarah, this is for, do you feel being part of this film helped you answer your questions about who you are?
Yes, 150%, even though it was, as I mentioned, a difficult process. I feel so lucky, grateful that I had the experience because, I mean, I could have chosen not to explore all sorts of things, but that's the kind of person I am. So I really dove into it. And the film, being a part of the film, pushed me to think and explore and challenge myself in ways that I likely never would have. I mean, now I'm almost 63. It's that kind of thing where you get to an age where you're like, like that's for the young kids. What's all this? I'm not gonna go there, but I really went there and I feel so much more comfortable in my own skin. And I really attribute a lot of that to the film, the process of being in that film.
And I would say, as somebody who's here watching the film and has seen it in 2 film festivals, physically been at 2 film festivals watching it, I think you're absolutely spot on about representation. I mean, it's an extraordinary story and absolutely fantastic to just see beautiful representation of us on the screen. Have we got any questions? Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want me to say it?
Yeah.
So, just out loud.
I don't know if they can hear you.
Can you hear me?
No, they can't hear you.
Yes.
Yep, I think so.
So basically, my grandma and my mum died of ovarian cancer, and last year I had my fallopian tubes and ovaries removed. And sorry, it's a personal question, but Sarah, have you had the same thing? Because you don't cover that at all in the film.
Yeah, no, that's true. We didn't. But yes, that was the first surgery I had. I had a oophorectomy. So that's tubes and ovaries. you can choose to have a full hysterectomy, but because cervical cancer is easier to detect, you have the choice to not do that, which that was the choice I made. So yes, I had that like 2019, and then 2020 was I had biopsies and things on my breast because I did have precancerous cells, but then I had the double mastectomy in 2020, 3 weeks before COVID.
Can I just interject there and ask you, how is your health now, and how regularly, having it done what you've done to your body, how regularly do you now have to check? Do you have to keep having checkups, or do you just sort of live a free life until anything happens?
Yeah, no, they essentially, I'm released from the genetic counseling program as soon as I've had these preventative surgeries, because essentially that reduces my risk level to kind of at or below the population average, probably lower. So that's it, because I don't, in my case, that, I didn't have any other sort of reason to keep monitoring me. I do have some kind of continual care around kind of menopausal symptoms, but that has nothing to do with the BRCA or anything. So yeah, it's really there, I wasn't ill. I never had cancer. So this is purely preventative, which is why I really encourage people to get tested because it's not like with certain kinds of genetics where even if there's nothing one can do. Whereas in this case, it's life-saving. The surgeon said to me about the breast, because some people choose to monitor and have, mammograms, as opposed to surgery. And she just looked at me and said, "No, Sarah, it's not if, it's when." So, and that was in my case, my age, and because I'd had precancerous cells, but highly, highly encourage people who have it in their family to get tested yeah.
Yeah, great. Good point.
And I wondered, Jan, sorry, could I just ask back to the woman who asked the question, if there's a generally high awareness in the UK in terms of the BRCA genetic mutation and so on?
I would say here, unfortunately, but obviously we're more fortunate than some other countries, I would say you have to fight and fight and fight, and there's not a great understanding if you go to the GP. So you really, really have to advocate for yourself.
Can I just say, I also have the BRCA gene, and I've had the ovarian thing, but I haven't had, but I've chose not to. But the interesting thing, I don't think it's interesting, there's no cancer in our family, but we've all autistic, mostly the gene.
Do you mind repeating that? I didn't quite catch it.
Yeah, sorry, Karen.
Or just summarize, yeah.
Not my feelings, hi, Sarah and Annie. Yes,
Can you hear her?
No,
It's a bit hard
muffled.
to hear, strangely. I don't know why.
Bye again.
Like the first question was really clear. I mean, we could hear it, but this one we can't hear.
Yeah, Jess is sitting by the computer, that's why. Okay, so can you repeat the point you were making? Yeah.
We have a BRCA gene in our family. Recently found about 3 years ago by accident. Now, whether that's a blessing or a curse, half my family think it's a curse because they won't get tested. Two of my very close, my daughter and my niece have already had surgery. So it's quite recent, so still.
Of course.
Yeah. So I decided not to have surgery. I've had downstairs sorted. So in some ways, I'm really glad that you're advocating, you're letting people know this is a thing. Yeah. And having that 2 genes. now we can be monitored. So I'm glad I know some of it.
Mhm.
So there is a positive outcome in some countries.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And but yes, it is a choice. But we need to know about it to have that choice. So I think it's really important. And it's very difficult for me to personally share this because a lot of people know very well. So thank you, both of you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another question here for Ali. How do you decide what to include from the large amount of footage you get, which is always a hard choice, presumably? So how do you decide when you're shifting, going through everything?
I think that, you know, for me, there were pieces that were so key to how I really wanted to tell the story. And then there was also some footage that I really loved as well. I think that very much bringing a lesbian gaze to all of these people in the film, and so there was some of that I really wanted. But as anyone who makes docs will know, I mean, you know, I think the convention is something like 20 to 1, right? You should have 20 times the amount of footage that you actually need. And so there was certainly a lot that ended up on the cutting room floor. But also with the funding, we were able to have a, you know, a professional editor to work with as well. And then we did, you know, I mean, Sarah and I talked about things. You know, we took the rough cut to, well, first of all, the four of us. Sarah and I, and Sarah's partner, my partner, and, you know, to talk about that. And, you know, it's significantly different from what the final thing was. But then we also, you know, took it out to some other folks that we trusted, and got some feedback on things. And I think that, you know, I remember learning in school from a great editing teacher. I loved her. And, you know, and she talked about, you know, getting feedback. It's all information, all of it. It's useful. Listen to it. But ultimately, it's up to you. You need to decide on your vision. And if you get feedback that absolutely everybody you hear from is saying the same thing about something, then be smart, listen to that. But really, film is such a subjective experience that I was quite pleased with myself, I must say. I'm going to say that out loud, how un-Scottish. I was quite pleased with myself that I was able to, because it was so new, be able to stand up for some of the pieces that I really, really wanted in that film. Like that opening scene is a very slow burn for a documentary, for the start of a documentary. I really, really wanted that, you know, so those kind of things. And then, you know, the stuff that you need to let go of that doesn't serve the, sorry?
I thought it was a good setup.
Yeah, right? I
No,
thought
it's
so
kind
too.
of, it was intimate, and it was sweet, and it was quiet, and I know what you mean, but I think it was a good setup right from the get-go. So I think you made the right choice.
Thank
I
you.
have another question for you now from the audience. What was the
Okay.
reaction? What was the reaction? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
What was the reaction of Sarah's wider family? Because this person said they noticed that your brothers' faces, Sarah, were blurred in some of the photos. Was it a healing process for you? And you know, how did the wider family feel?
That's actually, this is the first time anybody's acknowledged that. Yeah, it is a little tricky because well, one of my brothers, I don't, so that some of those images are like, I had stepbrothers and pretty complicated family. One of my brothers, we don't speak, and the other brother, at the time that this was all coming, you know, was we were gonna do this. Even in the early stages, my other brother has a daughter who, my brother also tested positive, so he then had to make a decision about when to tell his daughter, who I think at the time we probably started this film was like 16, 17. So it was really challenging. I felt bad that I was essentially kind of pushing him into somewhat of a corner. Um, on the other hand, I couldn't not do this because just of that. So with my family, obviously my mom had passed. My stepdad doesn't really even know about it. And with Tamar's family, it was like, a love fest, obviously. Much bigger. We're, far more connected to them. So yeah, if I would have had to have some very kind of big, serious conversations with the other brothers and stepbrothers, which I wasn't willing to have. Like, I just wasn't willing to kind of go through that in order to get them to sign things, and then they'd have to see it. And I made the decision to just say it is what it is right now, and that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah. So I've got a next question. I think probably we should be winding up soon, John. Yeah. Okay, 5 minutes. This is an amazing first film and told very beautifully. Is Ali planning on making further films on lesbian subjects? Great question.
Yes, 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 and yes. So yes, and only lesbian subjects. Okay, so now I'm almost 60, right? So
Then how's the funding going on that?
I know, well,
So yeah, so you've got some in the planning stage.
so I do have like if anybody's interested, they can go to my website on the Creek Films. And there is a short there that I did. I mean, it was a bit me, so I'm a lesbian subject. But a short memoir. And so I'm working on the next in what I see as a trilogy of short memoirs. And so that's going to be short memoir films. That's going to be a meditation on the joys of my liberated lesbian life. So that's going to be a wee short. But then I'm also working on a feature, which is in the very early stages of development. But you can be assured that it's going to have a bunch of lesbians in it. And
are these all documentaries?
yes, absolutely, 100%.
Anybody in the audience? Oh, we've got another one here. Cool. I should have got warm glasses. Following the important questions about awareness, has your film got sufficient distribution, including streaming channels, so we can spread the word and share your excellent documentary film?
Well, first of all, thank you for the questions, and they're very kind, and it's really encouraging to have me keep making films. I really appreciate that. First of all, the TELUS, the funder, so it is now streaming in Canada, well, in 2 of the provinces that we're in, but it will be streaming across the country soon. We have a possibility this very morning, or that it may be coming to a screen near you, people, sometime soon, which would be incredible. Can't tell you about that yet, but that is absolutely the intention, is that we want, Sarah and I, I've been so lucky to have Sarah, just everything, right? But also be really interested in promoting the film and keeping it going and impact. And so we're now that it's been released here in Canada, we're moving into a kind of a bit of an impact campaign. So we're starting to take it out to community and have screenings and discussions and so on. So our desire is to have as many people see it as possible. That's it. And so we're working on that in terms of distribution.
Any more questions?
Let me just say one thing, spreading the word. We would love it if you would follow us on social media at Not Quite That Documentary, or just go to the website, notquitетhatdocumentary.ca. We will work to get it out. And we would just love if you were able just to, you know, say you enjoyed this morning or whatever. We'd love to see you on there.
Oh, I think we're being told that we're coming to an end, which is perfect timing, because I think we have to finish now anyway. Ali, Sarah, you are both amazing. Amazing film. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks
to
so
everybody.
much, Jan. Thanks,
Fantastic.
everyone. Good night.
Enjoy the rest of the festival.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you everyone for participating. If that's the only day you're attending the festival, we would really appreciate it if you could help us fill in the audience survey. You could fill it in by scanning the QR code on the wall, but we have also lots of paper that has been prepared. You can also take them home, fill it in, and come back to us later.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emma, and thank you to the guys that made that technically possible. That was brilliant, really good.